The Galactic Empire's navy, often considered one of the most formidable military forces in the fictional universe it dominates, represents the pinnacle of centralized, autocratic power. Its size, scale, and structure are intricately tied to its purpose, enforcing the Emperor's will across an expansive galaxy. This navy is not merely a collection of ships. It is an instrument of terror, control, and dominance, designed to subjugate systems, crush resistance, and project the Empire's authority to every corner of known space. The sheer scale of the Galactic Empire's navy is staggering. The fleet operates on a scale far beyond anything imaginable in a planetary context. With millions of systems under its control, the Empire's navy must possess sufficient ships, personnel, and infrastructure to patrol, defend, and exert influence across this vast territory. At its heart are the iconic Imperial-class Star Destroyers, which serve as the backbone of the fleet. Each of these immense vessels is over a mile long and bristling with weaponry, carrying thousands of crew members and troops. The Empire fields thousands of Star Destroyers, each capable of acting as a mobile command center or spearheading an invasion force. These ships are emblematic of the Navy's might and serve as a visible reminder of the Empire's omnipresent power. Beyond Star Destroyers, the fleet includes countless other vessels, from smaller frigates and corvettes to massive superstar destroyers. These gargantuan ships, such as the Executor, measure up to 19 kilometers in length and dwarf even the Imperial-class ships in scale and firepower. Superstar destroyers are not just ships. They are symbols of the Emperor's absolute dominance, designed to inspire awe and fear. Their construction represents a monumental investment in resources, requiring entire planetary economies to sustain the raw materials, shipyards, and labor needed to produce such vessels. The Navy's size is further reflected in its extensive network of support and auxiliary ships. Cargo haulers, fuel tankers, repair vessels, and medical frigates ensure the fleet can remain operational across vast distances. Additionally, the Empire employs a staggering number of smaller ships, such as TIE fighters, bombers, and shuttles, which operate from the hangars of larger capital ships. TIE fighters alone number in the millions, forming the first line of defense and offense in engagements across the galaxy. These single-pilot craft are mass-produced to the point of near expendability, embodying the Empire's philosophy of overwhelming force through quantity. The personnel required to operate such a massive navy are equally staggering. Every Star Destroyer is staffed by thousands of officers, gunners, engineers, technicians, and support staff. Multiply this by the thousands of ships in active service, and the number of personnel climbs into the billions. This figure does not account for the soldiers and stormtroopers transported by the fleet or the administrative and logistical staff supporting operations from ground installations and orbital shipyards. The Empire's ability to recruit, train, and maintain such a vast number of individuals speaks to its unparalleled control over the galaxy's resources and its ability to enforce loyalty or submission among its citizens. In addition to its vast fleets and personnel, the Empire's navy is supported by an extensive infrastructure of shipyards, space stations, and logistical hubs. Major shipyards, such as those at Quat and Fonder, are capable of producing capital ships at an astonishing rate. These facilities are fortified and defended by dedicated fleets to ensure their continued operation. The Death Star, the ultimate symbol of the Empire's naval supremacy, was constructed at such facilities, representing a project of unprecedented scale and ambition. This moon-sized battle station required not only the resources of multiple star systems, but also the coordination of countless fleets to protect its construction and operational deployment. The size and complexity of the Galactic Empire's navy also reflect its strategic priorities. Unlike smaller galactic governments or insurgent forces, the Empire's navy is not designed solely for defense or limited engagements. Instead, it operates on an aggressive, expansionist doctrine. The Navy's primary role is to ensure the galaxy remains unified under the Emperor's rule, which often involves suppressing dissent, annihilating rebellions, and demonstrating overwhelming force. Entire fleets can be deployed to deal with individual uprisings, leaving no doubt as to the consequences of resistance. The Navy's size is also a product of the Empire's philosophy. Where other civilizations might focus on efficiency or diplomacy, the Empire prioritizes sheer intimidation. It does not merely seek to maintain order, it enforces fear. This approach necessitates an oversized fleet capable of responding to threats on multiple fronts, while still leaving enough ships to patrol key systems and maintain a constant presence in regions of strategic importance. The psychological impact of the fleet size cannot be underestimated. For many systems, the sight of even a single star destroyer is enough to ensure compliance. Beyond its immediate tactical and strategic purposes, the Navy serves as a cornerstone of the Empire's broader economic and political agenda. The construction and maintenance of such a massive fleet funnel resources into specific sectors and systems, creating a military-industrial complex that ensures the loyalty of influential corporate and political entities. Entire planets are dedicated to the production of starship components, fueling an economy centered on perpetual militarization. This economic dependency on the Navy further solidifies the Empire's control over its territories, as systems that benefit from the Navy's activities have a vested interest in its continued dominance. The Navy's vastness, however, is not without its challenges. Managing such an enormous force requires a level of coordination and efficiency that strains even the Empire's authoritarian systems. Communication across light years, the allocation of resources, and the need to respond to simultaneous threats across the galaxy all present significant logistical hurdles. The sheer scale of the Navy makes it vulnerable to inefficiencies, corruption, and mismanagement, particularly in distant regions where central authority is weaker. These challenges are exacerbated by the rebellion, which exploits the Navy's size to carry out hit-and-run attacks, targeting supply lines and isolated fleets. Despite these challenges, the Galactic Empire's Navy remains a monumental achievement, both in its physical size and its symbolic significance. Its fleets are the ultimate expression of the Empire's philosophy: absolute control through overwhelming force. From the smallest TIE fighter to the largest superstar destroyer, every element of the Navy is designed to serve this purpose. The Navy is not merely a tool of war. It is the Empire's most visible and pervasive instrument of power, ensuring that no star system can escape the Emperor's grasp. As the rebellion grows and the galaxy's discontent becomes more pronounced, the Navy is forced to stretch even further, revealing cracks in its seemingly impenetrable facade. Yet, for much of the galaxy's population, the sight of Imperial ships blotting out the stars serves as a constant reminder of the Empire's might. A fleet so vast that its true size can scarcely be comprehended. The Galactic Empire's Navy, for all its size and grandeur, also underscores the inherent contradictions and vulnerabilities of the regime that built it. While the fleet's staggering scale projects an aura of invincibility, it is also a reflection of the Empire's reliance on fear and centralized control, which ultimately leads to significant strategic and logistical challenges. One of the most significant factors in understanding the scale of the Galactic Empire's Navy is its ability to sustain operations across such an expansive domain. The Empire's commitment to militarization means that its economy and industry are almost entirely geared towards supporting the fleet. The resources required to maintain the Navy extend beyond material considerations. Entire populations are conscripted or coerced into service to provide the personnel needed to crew ships and manage their auxiliary infrastructure. Planets such as Lothal and other industrial worlds become key nodes in this system, often exploited to their breaking point to sustain the Empire's ambitions. The fleet is organized into numerous battle groups and regional commands, with local MOFs and fleet commanders overseeing operations in their respective sectors. This decentralized structure allows the Navy to respond to threats across a galaxy-spanning territory, while still maintaining a unified command under the Emperor and his closest military advisors. However, this organization is far from flawless. Rivalries between commanders, bureaucratic inefficiencies, and corruption within the imperial hierarchy often lead to operational failures, particularly in regions far removed from Coruscant's direct influence. These weaknesses are exploited by the Rebel Alliance, which uses its smaller, more mobile forces to disrupt imperial supply lines and strike at vulnerable outposts. The logistical requirements of the Galactic Empire's Navy cannot be overstated. The fleet's immense size demands a steady flow of raw materials, energy, and supplies to sustain its operations. Entire planets are strip-mined to produce the durasteel and other materials necessary for starship construction, while massive orbital shipyards operate around the clock to replace losses and expand the fleet. The energy demands of such a force are equally daunting, with reactors and fuel production facilities operating at unprecedented scales to keep the fleet moving. This immense consumption of resources places significant strain on the Empire's territories, leading to widespread resentment among the populations forced to bear the brunt of this economic burden. Despite its overwhelming size, the Empire's navy is not omnipotent. Its reliance on centralized control and sheer numerical superiority often leads to a lack of flexibility in dealing with asymmetric threats. The Rebel Alliance, by contrast, employs a decentralized strategy that allows it to strike where the Empire is weakest. This approach highlights the Navy's fundamental flaw: its inability to be everywhere at once. While the Empire can deploy overwhelming force to any given location, the size of the galaxy and the speed of the Rebels' hit-and-run tactics mean that the Navy is constantly playing catch-up. Moreover, the Empire's obsession with symbols of power, such as the Death Star, can lead to strategic missteps. The resources devoted to the construction of superweapons could arguably have been better spent on increasing the fleet's overall versatility and effectiveness. The destruction of the first Death Star at Yavin and later the second at Endor reveals the dangers of placing too much emphasis on singular, monumental projects. These losses not only deal significant blows to the Empire's military capabilities, but also undermine the psychological impact of its navy, emboldening resistance movements across the galaxy. The composition of the fleet also reflects the Empire's ideological priorities. The mass production of TIE fighters, for instance, demonstrates the regime's willingness to sacrifice quality and survivability for quantity. TIE fighters lack shields and are designed to be highly maneuverable and easily replaced, embodying the Empire's disregard for individual lives in favor of overwhelming numbers. This philosophy is effective against less organized foes but proves costly when facing well-coordinated resistance like the Rebel Alliance. Additionally, the Empire's dependence on fear as a tool of control creates a paradoxical vulnerability. While the Navy's size allows it to enforce compliance across the galaxy, this compliance is often fragile and conditional. The heavy-handed tactics employed by the Empire to maintain order, such as orbital bombardments and mass arrests, frequently breed resentment and foster rebellion. The larger the Navy grows, the more systems it must subjugate to sustain itself, creating a cycle of oppression and resistance that ultimately undermines the Empire's stability. Despite these challenges, the Galactic Empire's navy remains a testament to its unmatched ambition and technological prowess. The sheer number of ships, personnel, and resources under its command is unparalleled, and its ability to project power across an entire galaxy is a feat that no other faction can rival. However, the Navy's vastness is both its greatest strength and its Achilles heel. While it ensures the Empire's dominance in the short term, it also exposes the inherent fragility of a system built on fear, exploitation, and centralized control. Ultimately, the Galactic Empire's navy is more than just a military force. It is a reflection of the Empire itself. Its size, scope, and capabilities are a testament to the Emperor's vision of absolute authority, but they also reveal the inherent flaws and contradictions of that vision. The Navy's vastness may have allowed the Empire to rule the galaxy, but it also sowed the seeds of its eventual downfall. As the rebellion grows and resistance spreads, the limitations of even the largest navy become increasingly apparent, demonstrating that no force, no matter how vast, can maintain control over a galaxy forever.